Da sit Max do nod very bod rhan idw e a creso ving cartif mon. Uh, good morning. How's your day been? I'm Juan and welcome to my spooky home. Anyway, so tonight I was planning that we would excuse me. Continue a bit of the crash course on Daniel Larson that I unintentionally started a couple streams back. I believe this was the Monday night stream where a couple people showed up a little on the later side, but I was but I was showed up toward but and then I ended up going on for a little, like almost a couple hours longer than I'd planned, like than I thought I would when people finally started showing up. But yeah, tonight I'm thinking maybe we can do some discussion whilst playing the Kusari documentary on Daniel Larson. Because I do think of all the videos on Daniel Larson on YouTube right now, there are two people doing series, documentary style videos, and probably the best, I would say, on doing the documentary style videos about Daniel Larson is Kusari here. He's very neutral in reporting the facts that the established facts about Daniel Larson, but the tone he takes when describing things, he seems a bit more on the sympathetic side. That it seems like he really wishes Larson would get the help that he needs to. Dang it! I accidentally closed a tab. No. What did I do? Okay. Reopen closed tab. There we go. So, what I was thinking was that just because I do think Kusari takes the more sympathetic tone, you get the impression that he, really thinks Daniel needs serious mental health help, and has just been somehow just through a number of circumstances in his life, did not get it, currently is not getting it, and that nobody's being helped by this. And so yeah, I do think Kusari does have he's got a really good documentary series on Daniel Larson. This one, oh wow, okay, I misremembered. This one was first uploaded on March 15th, 2023. I thought it was a little bit older than that, but fair enough. So this covers most of this first part covers as much as has been established about Daniel Larson's childhood, and also the the earlier parts of Daniel's basically like chronicling like how Daniel became so infamous on social media, up to a time he went kind of up to the time he went dark, um, in late February, early March of 2023. And then, of course, shortly after Kusari uploaded this, Daniel was back online again, and hijinks ensued. Um, damn, that's right. I forgot that. Okay, so yeah, this is like 3 parts done over the last. Looks like it's gonna switch to 11 months tomorrow. So, yeah, 3 parts. The first one is 2.5 hours. Second part is 2 hours. And do we have part 3? And part 3 is 2.25 hours. I do not want to do all 3 parts tonight. But another decent documentary series on Daniel Larson is from Jet Airplane TV. And he does cover the same amount of time that Kusari does. He does cover the same amount of time on Daniel Larson that Kusari does, but he does. The first part does have a little bit good, or at least what he could confirm. But he does have a different tone, and it's not quite as sympathetic, but he does cover some of the smaller events that Kusari omits, which so like between these two, and I do think he does have the superior documentary. He is ultimately telling a story. I mean, all documentaries ultimately tell a story that the writer director of the documentary, even though it's story based on true life events, you do want to tell it in a specific way that you do want to tell it in a specific way that creates a feeling for the viewer. And so, like I said, I think the Kusari doc does come off a little bit more sympathetic. Like you do, like watching the Kusari doc, you do feel a bit sorry for Daniel. Like this is like his life is this unintended cautionary tale about how social media can be so detrimental to somebody's mental health, especially when they don't have the greatest mental health to begin with, and that it can easily exploit people who honestly don't know better. Now, somebody else who's covered Daniel Larson in some sense. Oh crap! I keep forgetting to move the thing. Okay, somebody else who's discussed Daniel Larson in some sense is the commentary YouTuber Papa Gut, and he does come down on the more sympathetic side, which is nice. But he also, a lot of people think he comes off in this way that makes excuses for some of the very heinous facts that have been established about Daniel Larson, such as Daniel's inappropriate feelings about kids and young teens. And we're talking younger than 16. And I specify younger than 16 for a number of reasons, but like mainly because 16 is the age of consent in a lot of the quote unquote Western world, including about half of the United States. Now, there are reasons that 16 is considered age of consent in approximately half of the US, and that's because you don't want to criminalize young kids. And when I say young kids, I mean 16 through early 20s. Like if you're in, it's not uncommon for 18-year-olds to still be in high school. So if you've got a, when you go to the half your age plus 7 years rule, 18 cut in half is 9 plus 7 is 16, right? So yeah, like we're an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old. They're in high school. They're in the same class for some reason, like maybe the 16-year-old is taking trigonometry a little bit early, for when compared to most people in that grade. So like they're both in a trig class, or they're both in a class that does not separate out by your school year. So, like choir or marching band or something, right? So a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old, you don't want to criminalize that because and yeah, I know that some states where it's age of consent is 18, there are close in age exemptions, but to counter that, but like say a 16-year-old and a 19 or 20-year-old could also be working part-time at the local Starbucks, and as long as they're both like on the same level at work, that's not really exploitative of right, that's not like the older kid exploiting the younger kid's lower rank or something. Again, this is a common scenario where two young people, and yeah, like 19 or 20 with a 16-year-old, it's a little bit questionable, but it's a lot easier to understand than say like a 25-year-old with a 16-year-old, right? So yeah, like there are reasons that largely social why 16 is age of consent in about half of the United States, but again, it's like that just because it's legal doesn't mean it's not creepy, like or it doesn't have the potential to be creepy, right? So yeah, like Larson has been confirmed to have very inappropriate thoughts towards kids, like prepubescent kids and teens under the age of consent throughout the US. This has been confirmed a lot of times, at least occasionally in like 2021 and 22, he would admit to it on TikTok lives and other, short video content he'd upload. And then sometimes he'd take it back. And yep, I got to talking about this because Papa Gut is often seen as making excuses for Daniel Larson, especially when the inappropriate feelings about children come up. And Papa Gut does point out that that there may be reasons behind this. One of which being Daniel is fairly low functioning on the autistic spectrum. Like, yes, he's compared to most people on. Okay, let me pull this up because uh, it was a thing. Somebody had said one time that I, I need to reset this to mode somehow. So so yeah, there's 3 levels now. So yeah, here level 1, people requiring um, that was cutting off some of it. So hello, really, we're doing this today. Okay. So yeah, like uh, it's it's not exactly the um the most accurate way to put it, I suppose. Okay, here's something with an infographic, and YouTube is a visual medium, so let's go to the one with the infographic. Hope that it loads. Oh, hey, okay, this should load up. I've been to I've been to the very well health thing before standard level, and Asperger's syndrome, which like is a pop culture sort of example of like what Asperger's high functionism. Dan Aykroyd was diagnosed with Asperger's at the basically. I think he told the story as like can't remember if it was his girlfriend or wife at the time, but you know, like his partner at the time uh, suggested that he get checked out by a professional about stuff. So like Dan Aykroyd would be a good like pop culture example of Asperger's syndrome, relative to the titular character in Rain Man, who's named Raymond, and I forget the family's surname, but yeah, if you've never seen Rain Man, it's a really good movie, and it's written very sensitively toward the care toward the character. Um, I do understand a lot of the issues that people with ASD have with it, or at least some people anyway. Like you get a movie like that, especially something as iconic as Rain Man, and like nobody's going to have the same opinion on it, even within the same supposed the same demographic, right? So like people with ASD can have very mixed feelings about it. Dustin Hoffman did study Kim Peek for a while, who I mentioned a couple days ago on stream. Kim Peek was a savant who was initially diagnosed as autistic, or at some point in his life anyway, was diagnosed as autistic. Um, but that's not quite his deal. It wasn't really quite his deal. But he had this brain abnormality that definitely contributed to his savantism. But yeah, the titular Rain Man, Raymond, is described by the professional at the institute where he lives as being an as being a high functioning autistic savant, and that is the and like Chris Chan is a proc. He's actually a she. Chris Chan is a little bit better adapted to life outside of an institution than Raymond in the 1987 film Rain Man was. Um, but Chris Chan also is not a savant, so there's that. Uh, Chris likes to think she's a savant sometimes, but she's not. She's very clearly not. But yeah, so like ASD1, formerly known as Asperger's, right? Says requiring support, difficult initiating social interactions, organization and planning problems can hamper independence. So like yeah, you somebody in this category is pretty functional, as according to what society expects of people, but needs a little bit of help here and there, right? Level 2, formerly known as high functioning autistic, which, Chris Chan, the titular Rain Man, requiring substantial support. And so social interactions limited to narrow special interests. This is very obvious with Chris Chan. She's got her things that she likes to talk about and is into and unless somebody can somehow spark an interest in something else in her, she's notoriously uninterested in talking about anything else or listening to another person, even somebody who at least tells Chris that they want to be Chris's girlfriend, right? So it doesn't and frequently restricted / repetitive behaviors. Again, this is noticed in Chris. She's also notoriously stubborn and isn't very well motivated toward changing anything in her life for the better. But Chris is able to do things like people, especially in this last year, get really stuck on the fact of what Chris did with her mother, which, like, yeah, I'm a bit more on the sympathetic side of Chris Chan, but it's like at the same time, I'm not gonna accept her BS that she's talking about the mother effing um, that she's claiming right now. Like, I can understand if she wants to dissociate from that so that she can move on. That makes some sense if you describe it in that way, I suppose. But this seems like a more conscious dissociation, I suppose. Because, like, I don't know, like when people think about, psychologically dissociating from the situation or something, um, they it seems to often be regarded as something kind of like not necessarily consciously done, right? But that, like, your brain is under so much um under so much pressure and stress and and negative emotions, traumatic kind of things, in the here and now, that just something just kind of shuts off, right? I think Chris has made a more conscious decision to try and dissociate from that so that she can move on and live her life. But yeah, like for the couple of years leading up to that, like, oh god, at recalling bits from the Geno Samuel doc, at least a good like 5-10 years before the unspeakable deed that she did with her mother. um Christine had a fairly decent grasp of keeping the household running, right? Like, yeah, people will complain about the e-begging, but she was able to get the bills paid in a not always on time, of course, but in a reasonable fashion. Like, she understood the severity of, of the pink notice, to use antiquated phrasing for this kind of thing. Do they still do it that way in some places? I don't know, but she understood how to get bills paid and basically run a household. And yeah, I'm under the impression that she's not a great cook, but she's with, and sometimes I'm sure it was like just barely, but she was able to keep Barb fed and, you know, all that. And yeah, like, you can say, well, she didn't do a very good job. A lot of, what she did do, um, at least bordered on neglect in some, to some extent. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but she understands how to do it and how to get it done. And that's like kind of where um, Chris Chan is a bit better off than the title character from Rain Man, right? So, like, Raymond wasn't really able to function that well out in the real world outside of the institution. Like, he'd do okay for a couple weeks at a time, like on a trip with his brother. That was, just watch the movie. Just watch the movie. I feel like, wait, do I really have to explain this? But but it's kind of a road trip movie, but it's starring Tom Cruise, so of course he has to jerk it up because he kind of plays himself in every goddamn movie. Um, but yeah, Tom Cruise is this guy who grew up rich, and his parents died, and he thinks he's getting a whole lot of more money than he is, but it turns out most of the money is going to this person that has the same last name as them, but who he'd never heard of. And they're at this institution, right? And he discovers that this is his older brother. And he's able to put together that, like, no, wait, he remembered his older brother. It's just like, for some reason, he went to the institution when Cruz's character was still kind of little and not forming the most solid memories yet. But yeah, and then, like, the whole plot is like, Cruz kind of kidnaps his brother from the institution in hopes of getting more inheritance. The rationalization sounds a little convoluted, and but it's it there are parts of it that I think are done very sensitively, and then there are parts where I'm just like, what the hell is this? And then there's parts where Tom Cruise is being Tom Cruise and kind of jerking it up, and I don't think, I don't know, I think Tom Cruise might be like a low-key sociopath, but that also could just be the Scientology. I don't well, then again, like, you kind of have to be, I suppose, to function in Scientology to any like great degree, from what I understand of how Scientology works, but whatever. And then there's like ASD level 3 that says requiring very substantial report. But yeah, like I was saying about Chris Chen, like, she can mostly take care of a household, but certainly needs somebody checking in periodically, just to like make sure it's all getting done, and also like check on Chris's well-being, because like a lot of people in this, in this part of the spectrum, and obviously, like, not all of them, but a lot of people in this area of the spectrum are, can be very, impressionable, to a fault, right? but also very stubborn about a lot of other things and very, right? Like it's a mix of like kind of like some extremes because like you think about Chris Chan and it's like, yeah, she's very stubborn about some things, but she's also very gullible and trusting, a, trusting to a fault in other things. And but yeah, like that's just kind of how her brain works. Like she definitely needs somebody checking in on her like every week approximately, but she can mostly take care of herself, right? She can mostly keep a household running, even if just barely. And probably definitely need somebody checking in, like once or twice a week just to make sure things are going smoothly. And but uh but that's kind of how that works. And then there's ASD level 3, requiring very substantial report support. Severe deficits in verbal and nonverbal social communication skills, and great distress slash difficulty changing actions or focus. So, like this, like I would like if I were on, because I'm not a mental health professional, I'm not any kind of like autism specialist. I'm not even autistic myself. My younger sister was with she was autistic and bipolar with strong schizoaffective leanings. But the the thing. Oh. Oh, hey, we've got 2 viewers in the audience. Feel free to say hi in chat. I'm just kind of like going on about the thing here. So yeah, but I don't have a great education on ASD, but having watched Daniel Larson for most of the last year, because the Kusari documentary on YouTube, um, this one here, yeah, it came up in my recommended, and I was just like, "What the heck is this?" But and then I learned the Kusari documentary that week um, that Daniel Larson is the internet's like mm, uh, new favorite subject of what Chris Chan described as America's favorite game, Kick the Autistic. Though I wouldn't say it's America's favorite game, but it's definitely the internet's favorite game. And what the hell? What did I do? Let me check this thing because like a couple tabs just, god damn it, couple of tabs just did a thing on me. Okay, and we share, and what the hell, now I've got like okay, so now I've got 2 frames telling me about the thing. What the hell ever. Anyway, so yeah, Daniel Larson tends to use a lot of words. He's um he speaks with relative fluence. Um but but um but he also really really needs somebody looking after him all the time. Ideally, like I ideally he should be in some kind of care facility where they can watch him 24/7. Um, um, okay, share this tab instead, and let's go here. There we go. Okay, I think I fixed the thing with the frames of the thing. But but yeah, while Daniel Larson was in actually like this this part of the document is going to go over that, but yeah, he's he's got some Daniel Larson, as I said on to some that see video earlier today. Internet from Justin Wang. Oh, oh, you delicious, terminally heterosexual little guy. Nice little, because internet guy, right? But if he's ever feeling the slightest bit by curious, I offer my services to for sci curious. I mean, it is Justin Wang, and he seems like who would be fun if like another guy like that kind of guy. Just I don't know if I want to be disappointed, but yeah, I was reviewing some Daniel Larson.
Ladies
Earlier today.
and gentlemen, the unthinkable has happened.
Now,
And not because
quite eccentric people that the internet has taken note of. But at the same time, I don't know. I just to
Daniel Larson is some good upstanding
stop it.
citizen that you never expect
Please stop.
to be seen.
Please stop. Now, Daniel Larson was arrested last week. But where the hell? Where did my comment go? Wait. This one was 10 days. Okay, so this is not the one from today. Please. Oh, wait. I know how to today. So that I can find my comment. Ha ha ha. But yeah, like Smokey's like always kind of if it's just like good nature, more judgmental than necessary. It's kind of hard to tell, but he does otherwise fair coverage of the video was involved in. It's his commentary that leaves me just like, in terms of like whether he's whether it's like a good-natured ribbing or if it's a or if it's a little more, but he asked that. Okay. So here we go. There we go. Because yeah, Daniel Larson was arrested sometime in the last, well, I guess like last couple weeks, since the other one was from 10 days ago. And so like the body cam footage was released somehow. I don't remember if like it just like automatically goes up on like the police website for certain cities, or if people have to do a formal request for it to be released or something. But yeah, at around like 5 minutes, 10 seconds in, like we see the body cam footage from Daniel Larson's arrest. And so he's been in jail the last week and a half thereabouts. And the cops in the body cam footage are actually like pretty cool about it, right? Like, yeah, you can see what Daniel's, I mean, I guess you could understand what Daniel's saying when, like he makes some comment to, like in the police station in the little holding cell he's in at the jail, that like maybe they were like holding his hands behind him a little bit tighter than he would have liked, but the officer at the little holding cell says to him, well, you've got a history of being a little violent, and so they're holding your hands back so that you can't do that, but also like so that you don't get hurt if you start flying off, and they have to like restrain you even harder, right? And like I said, the police were like refreshingly nice to him. I think, as I said here, agreed that the cops in this particular situation are being incredibly kind to Daniel. They can tell he's probably got mental health issues. Those struggling with homelessness disproportionately do. While I don't know what all the info on him in the warrant is, he does look the part of a mentally ill homeless guy. And when you see some more pictures of Daniel Larson once he loses stable housing, it's I hate to stereotype, but he really kind of does, right? Okay, and the cops have either had additional mental health training or are just fundamentally nicer guys compared to most other cops. And I really hope that this gets the ball rolling to get Danderson in the mental health care situation that he needs. He's shown time and again that he cannot safely function as his own guardian. For real, if we discount the mother effing, Chris Chan did a better job taking care of a household than Daniel Larson could even manage just himself in the assisted living care homes he was briefly in. So yeah, even with somebody living there full time to do like to like do stuff involved with managing the household, right? For him, whereas like Daniel Larson is doing like the bare minimum. Like Daniel can't even seem to keep that together. Anyone else feel weird realizing that Toucan Dan, because he's got an extremely large nose relative to his face, which is probably due to his microcephaly from likely fetal alcohol syndrome. Um, it's not unusual, or it's not unheard of. Like, you look up pictures of, let's say, the Pinhead from um, he was in Todd Browning's 1932 film Freaks, which I absolutely love. And, especially for its time, it's it it's kind of sympathetic toward the sideshow performers, right? But Schultze the Pinhead, he was a microcephalic born in, I want to say, Ohio, somewhere in the Midwest thereabouts, right? To like German immigrant parents, and and he was a sideshow for performer. I mean, yeah, you could say that the term pinhead is maybe a bit unkind. It was the early 20th century. I'm not going to judge too harshly. Just, you know, obviously we don't use that term for people with microcephaly anymore. And you're discouraged, well, it's not used. I don't think it was ever used in medical terminology. And it's discouraged, to refer to somebody with microcephaly in that way, as that, as a pinhead, in the day to day stuff, right? But Daniel Larson does seem to have a case of microcephaly, which is probably due to fetal alcohol syndrome. Um, there are there are angles and photos where Larson's microcephaly does not seem that pronounced, but then there are others where it's clear that he's got a tiny head relative to the rest of his body. So yeah, it's not the most severe kind of grade of microcephaly, but he does have a small head relative to the rest of his body. Um, yeah, it's so so he does not have the greatest. He got a really he got dealt a really shit hand in life, right? So yeah, anyone else feel weird that in realizing that Toucan Dan makes it obvious that Chris Chan is actually able to function in society, that Chris's biggest issues have always been an unwillingness to change for the better, but was still able to manage getting bills paid and keep the lights on, even if online panhandling was often utilized to do so. And here's Daniel Larson, who can't even do the bare minimum to stay in the care homes he was briefly in. That Danderson can't even do the most basic shit the average 7-year-old can be expected to do for oneself, while someone else does the cooking and laundry and worries about keeping the lights on. And sweet, 2 likes. But yeah, Daniel Larson is he really does need somebody looking after him. And but at the same time, I also understand that, like, maybe what he needs. um Last week, yeah, sometime last week, actually, sometime in the previous 2 weeks, Daniel Larson was arrested for he had a couple warrants for failure to show up for court dates. And at least that was the one that he was arrested on. And then there's another one that's only citywide, I believe, for Denver. And I don't remember. I think he was in Boulder when he was arrested. So yeah, like, one was, anywhere in the state they could arrest him, but the other one was just like when he's in the city of Denver, they have to arrest him, right? Or or are required to, whatever the exact terminology is. But yeah, like I said, like, I'll play a little bit of this here. Like, I'll just jump to my um just because Smokey inserts a bit of commentary, and he's also got an ad read, which just, when he's doing when like smoke when a channel like Smokey McSee is like his subject is focused on, like Chris Chan and Daniel Larson and White Bowser and Jupiter the Hybrid and all the other internet lol cows. The fact that he's like got like an ad sponsor with this aura, um service here, that's kind of concerning to me. You know, like I don't care about like the YouTube monetization with, you know, like the ad rolls and the, you know, royalties from YouTube premium viewers like myself. But like the sponsorship offers just kind of bugs me a little bit. So, but we're gonna skip over that and
including myself, were very, very confused about the fact that there was no recording of it. Knowing Daniel that he might find troubling, and getting arrested was definitely one of those things. And I remember there were rumors of people saying, well, Daniel probably just got picked somewhere early. He gets like 1 or 2 meals a day, and this was probably his, oh, no more. That had us. Seems like he knows how to handle somebody, like somebody who's...
Right, calm down. We're good.
It's gonna be okay, but we're gonna figure out the warning.
Okay, more. So just relax. Everything's okay. It'll be okay. Alright.
6:32, we got him in custody right now.
So I need you to put the handcuffs on him, because for what it's worth, they are pretty gentle for someone like Daniel. Obviously, they need to use some force to get his hands there, put the cuffs on him, and after that, they can figure everything out. But when you see what Daniel says about them later, he had an entirely different idea of what happened here. These guys were very understanding, telling Daniel just relax, everything's gonna be cool, while other cops were just told him to be quiet, you know, you're under arrest and all this. And Daniel, even with these as they can possibly be to him, he'll have his complaints later on in the video.
okay, Aurora.
Yeah, we had a couple conversations at the mall, right?
Yeah.
Okay, apparently this is Aurora, Colorado.
Yeah.
You guys are good. I'm gonna pull your pants
You got your.
up. Pull your pants up.
So you want to explain?
So what we're gonna do too is issue a trespass from this mall. It is for life, so you're not welcome back. We have all your information here. We're just gonna get a picture of you, and then after today, you're just not welcome back here.
Okay.
As long as you stay away from the mall, you should be all good. Okay, brother?
And it's for life.
For life. Okay. So if you just want to look into the camera real quick.
So you got a bag, property bag?
So Daniel gets trespassed by this mall for life, and I don't know if that's because he just got arrested inside the mall or because he was making threats. Because later on in the video, again, you're gonna hear one of the sergeants or whoever was at the police station that Daniel was talking to say that, you know, we are aware of all these crazy threats you've been making, and Daniel simply chalks that up as, yeah, it's just more troll nonsense, when at the end of the day, it's something I can absolutely doing.
Alright, have a seat, bud.
All right, Mr. Larson. You get those warrants and everything taken care of, and then we'll see you out here again, okay?
Okay.
All right, brother.
I was a warrant at a hotel on this end of town,
I got you.
and I am, because I'm like self-employed.
Okay.
I didn't have enough money
No, that's
to
okay.
get to the court,
Gotcha.
and all of my paperwork and all of my was at the hotel.
I got you. No worries. So the good thing about this is you're gonna get one of these warrants cleared up, okay?
Okay.
There's 2 warrants that's in the system for you right now. So
Right, in
one of them is
Jefferson?
one is Denver, one is Jefferson. Once you get those cleared up, you ain't got nothing to worry about it. Just if you ever in the future was to get a ticket, at least call and they can try to reschedule some stuff for you so you don't get those warrants.
That's what I was actually working on doing as
Okay.
well already.
Okay.
I saw you guys in there,
It's okay.
and I was like, I don't know if I was told that like I can't get the state of Colorado.
I got you.
I thought I was following the rules, so I was like, I am more than aware that you guys would probably know, but I didn't think that you guys could arrest me on the
Yeah,
warrant.
some of the warrants are some of them are listed like, you know, either citywide or whatever, or statewide. The one that they wanted you on was a statewide, so anywhere in the state can pick you up on that one, which is why we can't charge you with or take your mind on the other two. So that's why I'm just keeping you updated right now. When you get done with this one, make sure that you take care of the other two, okay? Because I don't want you getting jammed up again.
Okay.
All right?
So Daniel lets these cops know that he was aware that he had warrants out there. Gordon was
Yeah,
going
so,
to
like-
his yelling. Apparently Daniel didn't shower.
So when
the part at the station, and I was actually like pleasantly surprised that, knowing that that the cops don't have the greatest reputation in mental health and homelessness. I was kind of pleasantly surprised that that they're all being like so nice to him in Aurora, Colorado. So either they have additional mental health training, or they're or they're just nicer at at this station anyway.
I was met with the officers that arrested me, they grabbed both my arms and put them behind my back.
It's called arrest control.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, and the way this this officer, like I said, in the little holding cell here, or I guess it's like one of those like little interview room kind of things. The way he's talking to Daniel, it's just like yeah, he's aware of Larson's handicap, mentally speaking, but he explains it all like with the basic dignity that you'd want to have something explained to you with, right? Like,
I feel like it was kind of aggressive.
It may have been a little aggressive.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what kind of warrants you have?
I do, yes.
Okay. Do you think that due to the fact that you have a history of being violent with other people, that maybe that's why they did that? Because here's the thing.
Right.
If they do that and then that keeps you from being violent, then it keeps you from being hurt, doesn't it?
Right.
Okay.
And I agree.
Okay.
I just feel like it was aggressive for the meaning of what they were trying to do at that time. I feel like if I was being aggressive, then I feel like that makes sense.
Okay. Did you make statements that you were going to shoot up the Aurora Mall?
I did not.
yes, he did. There is a video that he put on I don't remember which one of his social media accounts it was originally posted to, but yes, he did. He has made several videos saying that he should, or he needs to, in his words, of course, do various types of things of that accord, at malls, at the White House, at all sorts of places. So yeah, like that is just an outright lie that Daniel has just said to the police, because now my guess is somebody might have sent that to the cops in the area where he's at, like even before they went and arrested him, just to say, hey, this guy said he's gonna do the all over the mall, and so yeah, where he said just now that he never said that, that's a lie. So I don't know if he's handicapped enough mentally that he just has that poor of a memory of having said it, or if he said it in a very brief manic episode, that he's got dissociative amnesia under that kind of thing, right? But still, like, if you're a person who's got a kind of condition like that, and there's parts of and there's like dissociative amnesia for when you're in that kind of mood state, right? Again, you probably need a lot of, you do need some kind of mental health support, which he is clearly not getting. And if anything, it might be more concerning to people, that if somebody's bipolar with, intermittent dissociative amnesia in certain kinds of states, that I understand why some people would be a bit more concerned about that, because if you say something like that and then you go and do something like that, I don't know, I understand people's concerns, though I don't know enough about bipolar with dissociative amnesia, or bipolar schizoaffective like Daniel Larson's got with dissociative amnesia to, say, whether, to say how warranted that concern would be. But I do understand why people would be concerned about somebody saying that kind of stuff, especially if they have a mental condition that makes them prone to forget that they even said it, even if they posted the evidence that they said it on the internet. Because let's be honest, how often do most people go back and look at their own various social media posts? Not very often, right? Well, unless you've got cats and you just want to go look at more pictures of your cats. Right, Nigel? But are you just going to stare at me like the glamorous loaf you are? You are a majestic loaf. Don't deny it, my little boy. So anyway, crash course in Daniel Larson tonight. We're going to start with the first part of the Kusari documentary. We're probably not going to watch the whole thing tonight, but I will take down notes of the chapter where we leave off. I swear to God, I went to the beginning of this already. Please go back. There we go.
Hello, everyone. My name is...
Welcome to the world of Daniel Larson, the enigmatic figure behind the screen who has become one of the most infamous and disturbing lolcows on the internet. Daniel's internet presence tells a twisted and deranged story that has captivated the attention of millions of viewers, making him an ironic internet sensation. With his strange appearance, bizarre antics, and cringeworthy behavior, Daniel has amassed a dedicated following of fans who can't seem to get enough of his absurd and often disturbing content. However, behind the facade of his online persona lies a troubled individual who is struggling to cope with his mental health issues and who's basically unmemory will take you on a journey through the strange and unsettling world of Daniel Larson as we explore the dark and disturbing side of one of the internet's most notorious figures since Chris for a wild ride, because this is the twisted tale of Daniel Larson.
Yeah, calm down, calm. Daniel.
Guys, check out my YouTube now, and please comment. I'm currently under attack. What the fuck is going on? Why the fuck am I to blame? I've done nothing wrong. Doesn't anybody scream on the phone because they were telling me that I was a bitch and now I'm a liar! Get out of here!
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here. And I did a lot. I made lots of friends. I learned how to do stuff I never knew how to do before, and it's much better now. Thank you.
Daniel Robert Larson was welcomed into the world on November 15, 1998 in Lancaster, California, to his parents Elizabeth Lee Scheimer and James Travis Larson. As of today, he has just crossed the age of 24. Unfortunately, his childhood was marked by turbulence, with his parents showing care or attention. Daniel has claimed in various deleted videos that he was abused during his childhood, although there are other sources indicating that he may have been the abuser himself, throwing fits of rage and acting violently towards himself and others when things didn't go his way. It is worth noting that at the tender grandmother's walls, and instead of facing any actual discipline or consequences for his actions, his father believed behavior. Services removed Daniel from his parents' custody when he was 11 years old. He was the Colorado
day, like a couple nights ago, that that Daniel's father basically hasn't been in the picture since it was like probably since Daniel was a toddler. But of course, like people on the internet get weird about about people on the internet who are weirder than them, right? Which I think it's safe to say Daniel Larson does qualify as Jimmy Neutron 93 tells me I'm a cutie. Well, thank you. Random person from Twitch. Femboys do like to hear that. But where was I going? Oh, right. Yeah, Daniel Larson. So yeah, his father hasn't been in the picture since he was probably like a very young child. But of course, people on the internet, being as they do, like to track down family members of these ironic sort of internet figures, right? Like Chris Chan. And if anything, Daniel Larson has made me appreciate just like how relatively functional Chris is, right? Like, yeah, she's trying to dissociate from what she did with her mother and bragged about it to a few people before being arrested for it and spending most of 2 years in jail, right? But yeah, you know, it is what it is, and I understand why that frustrates people, because you know it's clear Barb has dementia, but you know, I'm getting too far off track. But yeah, when some people were able to track down Larson's father, and I don't remember if it was in you know, like a Discord call or something, or if it was just like text DMs over Facebook or whatever. But they were, you know, that's kind of how this little anecdote was able to be tracked down to Daniel's father, that about Daniel as a small child, about 3 or 4 years old, painting on the walls, and when his maternal grandmother discovered this, gave him candy of some sort instead. And of course, like, his father thinks this reinforced that kind of entitled behavior for, you know, acting out and, you know, like not getting a timeout or something, but instead getting candy, as, you know. So, I mean, my stepmother was a social worker who, whose caseload was like overwhelmingly like a mix of teen mothers and adults with developmental handicaps of some sort. And one of the things that she did regularly was like nutrition classes, but she did go out for her. She did specialize in like family development, and she did her master's thesis on raising, like, the effect, the development of empathy in children raised with pets, especially like larger pets, like dogs and cats, rabbits, and since we lived in a rural area, when my dad remarried and we moved in with my stepmom, like horses, like it, especially if kids like as young as 2 or 3, are taught to take an active part in helping to care for the pet, because like a 2-year-old, you can give them a scoop and they can scoop out kibble from the bag and help feed the cat or dog, or or bunny, or right. So they can do little things to help take an active role in caring for the pet at a young age. Like maybe you wouldn't expect them to do that all the time on their own, but like this is how kids learn. They think it's fun to learn, how to do things, right? Yeah, I will get back to the vid. You can be a little bit patient because I'm also giving commentary. So, but yeah, with I don't know all the ins and outs of child development with like kids as young as 4. So like I understand why it would make sense to somebody that a kid as young as 4 is able to learn disciplined behavior, but I don't know. I think the jury's still out on how much that would affect later behaviors. I'm not sure. So I'd say that, like, take it with a pinch of salt. Remember, Daniel's father has not been in the picture since Daniel was a very young child, and he is definitely not a mental health professional or child development specialist of any sort. So he can think what he wants, and that's fine. But just like take that as the opinion of somebody who doesn't have the education to say anything definitive, and also hasn't been an active part of Daniel's life since he was like 5-ish, roughly.
Live with his grandmother, Nancy Scheimer, who served as his legal guardian to prevent him from being placed in foster care. Daniel's teenage years were marred with difficulties as he struggled with behavioral issues and mental health disorders, such as ADHD, autism, and bipolar disorder. Despite
also, based on some of the medications that it's confirmed Larson has been on, he is almost certainly I explained this on a stream. Actually, I've explained this on streams since I've been for the last week and some, when I started reading from what we like to call around here this page called Resurrect Isis, as in the goddess, where it comes off as kind of a pagan time cube, which and that is fair because the man who wrote this is absolutely serious about all of it. Excuse me. So yeah, like I'm familiar enough with people on the bipolar schizophrenia spectrum, which it's being a bit reclassified because it's been noticed for actually like the last few decades, since at least the mid-90s, that a lot of people with bipolar disorder also have symptoms of schizophrenia, and vice versa, right? And so like there's this middle part of the spectrum, much like when I brought up the I think I closed that tab already. The thing with the autism levels going like autism 1, autism 2, autism level 3, right? I would say Daniel is probably in autism level 3, but the only thing that would like put him in level 2 is the fact that he speaks relatively well compared to most in level 3 who are relatively mute. have very few words that they use in any given day. I've got a friend whose middle son is autism level 3 with clinical mental handicaps as well, and she says he has like maybe 5 words any given day, and they can change seemingly at random. And one time when he was like 8 years old, one of his words of the day was "but," and but so yeah, like Daniel's an odd case, and as people have said of Chris Chan, is probably in a demographic of 1, right? It's but oddly, as I've said many times, but yeah, so like bipolar is on one end of a spectrum, schizophrenia on another, and Daniel is probably in the schizoaffective middle part of that spectrum. Just it's so yeah, that's at least been inferred by a lot of people keeping tabs on Daniel, just from some of the medications that he's been on that have been confirmed in some way that
Despite the challenges he faced, Daniel never gave up on his dreams of attending film school and pursuing a career in music or acting. In 2012, a news segment from KWGN showed a 14-year-old Daniel reflecting on his time at the Tunisian Center in Colorado. The Center for Children specializes in serving neglected, abused, and traumatized children. Daniel lived at the facility for 1.5 years and attended there with neglect.
The Tunisian Center for Children has become one of the Rocky Mountain region's leading treatment centers for emotionally and crisis-affected children, particularly those suffering from abuse and neglect.
Good boy. When I first came here, I actually was really nervous.
That's 14-year-old Danny, who came from an extremely neglectful home. When his grandmother got word of Danny's situation, she moved here from California so he wouldn't end up in a foster home. Danny still lived at the center for 1.5 years, but now lives with his grandma, continuing to go in and receive treatment.
When he came almost 3 years ago, he was very angry and confused and feeling very uncertain about his life and where he belonged and what was going to happen.
Rod Witt, the president of Tunisian Center, says the program gives children like Danny great opportunity.
Do they bring this? They've got the opportunity to, number one, be safe. Number two, receive some attention that they've, in some cases, never received. And number three, to get help and to be themselves and to really let their own personalities come forth.
But looking at Danny now, you will see a smiling boy with the world ahead of him.
This is wonderful today!
Danny and his grandmother have both seen huge improvements.
I learned to, when I'm in school, to do school and never quit, because if you quit, you won't know what to do. And if someone's trying to get you upset, don't let them make you feel bad.
I shitpost on r/Daniel Larson a lot, whether in a proper original post or in just the comments. And every so often when somebody asks on r/Daniel Larson what the hell happened to Daniel, because you see in this Tunisian Center news segment, he seems like a pretty sweet kid, he's obviously got some challenges mentally speaking, but he seems like a relatively sweet kid in this segment, and people will sometimes just ask in an original post, because they can't search the subreddit for all the other dozens of posts of this sort over the last week. What the hell happened to Daniel? And one of my typical shitpost replies to that is, well, he quit school, so he didn't know what else to do. Which, is just kind of throwing Daniel's own words. especially if somebody, does an original post asking what the hell happened to Daniel since the Tennyson Center video when he seemed like a relatively sweet kid in this video. I'll just like throw his words back at the at the person asking. It's like, well, duh, he quit school and he didn't know what to do. Because, like one of my sisters had schizoaffective disorder, and another one of my sisters was autistic with bipolar disorder and strong schizoaffective tendencies. So, like, I kind of grew up like trying to like learning how to decipher schizophrenic logic, as I say a lot of times. I've also got three, relatively good friends who are on the schizoaffective spectrum, and perfectly lovely people, and this is just something that they live with, and periodically need to go to a hospital for, but most of the time they're perfectly functional members of the world, and excuse me, and it's nothing to be afraid of, in the overwhelming majority of people who live with schizophrenia, or schizoaffective disorder, which, like I said, is like the middle part of the bipolar bipolar schizophrenic spectrum. So it's like people on the schizoaffective and schizophrenic parts of the spectrum, it's perfectly fine people. Just there's things that they have to live with and deal with, and sometimes go into a hospital for, not all the time, not some people more regularly than others, but and when that happens, it's usually to readjust the meds, because medications aren't, it's kind of like how my older sister, the one with like solid schizoaffective disorder, she described it as like how with my allergy meds, and a lot of people who take allergy meds, this is my generic Zyrtec for now. Like you can take a certain kind, like you can take Zyrtec for like a year or two, and it's doing its job. But then, after that period of time, you are, somehow your body's just like not accepting it as your antihistamine anymore. So you go outside and all the pollen hits you, even though you took your Zyrtec in the morning, and the pollen hits you and you're just ugh. So yeah, like I said, my sister with schizoaffective disorder described it kind of like that. Like, like sometimes you're on meds for a while, and then your body just gets too used to it and decides that you have to go cycle to a different medication for a bit, and you're good on that for a year or two, and then you have to try something different or go back to the previous medications, right? So yeah, like when she analogized it to to like how my allergy medications, I'll sometimes like build up a tolerance and not have and suddenly it's not working anymore. So like that's one way to describe it. It's just like with the combination of medications that people on the schizoaffective and schizophrenia ends of the bipolar schizophrenia spectrum, like a lot of times the meds have to be pretty intense, and the reactions should be monitored, especially early on. So, but yeah, it's nothing like to be nervous about if you know somebody with schizoaffective disorder or schizophrenia. It's just it's another neurodivergence related to bipolar disorder, and so I knew where I was going to go with that thought, but then it wandered off, and it's going to pick roses, so I'll just like go on with the video.
About yourself. Think you're just be good and make yourself feel happy.
He likes himself now. He feels good about himself. I'm not saying he's a finished job. He's got more work to do, but he's a much different child than he was when he first
has big dreams and is looking forward to the future.
I like theater. I love to act. I want a storm chase. Hopefully I'll be on the news one day.
As Danny says goodbye, he has this to say to the people at the Tennyson Center.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure being here. And it did a lot to help me. I made lots of friends. I learned how to do stuff I never knew how to do before. And it's much better now. Thank you.
This touching news segment showcases Daniel Larson's inspiring determination to pursue his passions despite the challenging circumstances of his upbringing. Unfortunately, Daniel's life took a tragic turn with the passing of his beloved grandmother, 19, due to complications from cancer. The loss had a profound impact on him, and he was subsequently placed in a state-run group home for the disabled, where he stayed for 2 years before moving between other disability homes and experiencing homelessness.
Now, I have seen some conflicting stuff. It does sound like, at least based on some people's information, that Nancy Scheimer, his maternal grandmother, made arrangements for Daniel to move into one of the care homes before she died. Like, she knew that, this was getting tough on her, and she knew she, may not survive it, and was already making arrangements before she died for him to move into a home. And the way Kusari put it made it sound like that this was sort of just, that he was just like placed there by the state. I'm not quite sure what exactly happened, but it does sound at least plausible that Ms. Scheimer would have made arrangements before, because one of the things that when people were able to track down Daniel's mother, now you also got to take Daniel's mother's word with a pinch of salt as well, because she is also not the most reliable narrator, but considerably more reliable than Daniel, which is this family is just like it's like the trashy version of the Chandlers. like that's the best way I can think to describe Daniel's parents, right? They're like the trashy version of the Chandlers. Like, his dad kind of fell out of the picture when he was really young. His mother is confirmed wheelchair bound with lupus. But it's also been confirmed that she's Nancy Scheimer's adopted daughter, and so Nancy adopted her from, I believe, as an older child, like older than 5, but younger than a teen, I believe. I see mixed things here and there, and I kind of hesitate to go to the Daniel Larson wiki, but I think I will when we go to when we continue this tomorrow with the commentary and all. But yeah, it does seem that like I said, Daniel's mother was Nancy Scheimer's adoptive daughter, who was adopted from foster care herself, and so
trauma inflicted by his parents during his childhood, which have caused concerns of schizophrenia, particularly to take his prescribed medication. After Daniel's grandmother passed away, he found a new mentor in. They first met at the Tenny Center's Reading Buddy program, where Daniel was residing at the Despite the limitations of the program, did off and for meetings. Bob grew closer to Daniel's grandmother Nancy, and after her passing he stepped in to support Daniel's music career, funding it with instrumentals. However, caring for Daniel proved to be a difficult task for Bob, and he ultimately had to make the tough decision to become his caretaker. Actor was a recurring theme in his life. Despite having no connections in the music industry, he often acted as though he had already made it big. His delusions only intensified. Created his first TikTok account at Daniel Larson Fans in March of 2020. Although the account name suggested that it was a fan, Daniel saw it as another way to pose as a celebrity. Initially, his videos were simple and showed him discussing his aspirations to become an actor and singer-songwriter. While his appearance and were sometimes strange, the comment section was ironically supportive, fueling his delusions. With only a small following of 200 people, Daniel's confidence grew, leading to his unexpected declaration of candidacy for the presidency by 14, unclear and often contradicting.
Hello, this is Daniel Larson. I am planning on running for president in the future. If you think that that's a good idea, please click the thumbs up, like, give me a follow, and give me a comment. Please stay tuned. Thank you.
To his yet loyal followers, Daniel's announcement to run for president was met with enthusiasm, with some jokingly referring to him as Mr. President, and even suggesting he had a genuine shot at. He slowly became a. However, strange occurrences began to take place in his videos, with the front camera of his phone malfunctioning and the videos becoming foggy. This unintentional running joke, known as the fog era, caused his followers to become more involved, ultimately leading to trolls taking advantage of his vulnerable nature and mental health issues. Some followers posed as scouts or CEOs for record labels, leading Daniel to make videos claiming to work for those labels.
Hello, this is Daniel Larson, and I am planning to sign with Fine Dining Records. I want to say thank you to Mark, Matt, Jaden, Gabe Itch, and Ray Pist. Thank you so much for all your support, and I can't wait to work with you. See you on the flip side.
The situation quickly escalated for Daniel Larson, leading to a catastrophic turn of events. On November 20th, 2020, a leaked Pinterest account belonging to Daniel revealed alarming content that left many people disturbed. The images were of young female celebrities, such as Grace Vanderwall and Darcy Lynn Farmer, who were both around 16 years old at the time. To make matters worse, the pictures were often taken when they were even younger, intensifying the overall distressing nature of the situation. Another board showed a map listing the age of consent in each state, implying that Daniel had disturbing intentions towards underage girls. In a bid to salvage his image, Daniel took to his TikTok account to apologize and acknowledge the Pinterest account as his. However, some individuals claimed that his managers had coerced him into making the video. The problem was further compounded by the fact that the Pinterest activities had been going on for an extended period, long before Daniel became an online sensation.
Hello, everyone. In the past, I used to use pictures of girls and masturbate to them.
Recognizing that a simple apology would not suffice to address the backlash, Daniel resorted to claiming that his social media accounts had been hacked by trolls. Surprisingly, some people believed this explanation. However, during a live stream hosted by a fake record label, Roach Records, his followers bombarded him with questions regarding his Pinterest account, forcing him to come up with yet another excuse. He stated that he was hacked after giving his login information to another fake record label, Fine Dining Records. Despite his conflicting explanations, fans were perplexed, especially when it came to his personal interactions with young girls. Despite his claims of being hacked, Daniel had recorded duet videos with children. During the live stream, it out that he had previously admitted Pinterest account and boards were his, and that he had used children's photos on the account for his own pleasure.
Record companies, I follow family, my family follows me. It's just got everything now. Mm-hmm. But it blew up, guys, like I said, within the first 24 to 48 hours of me having the account.
And you have a YouTube account too, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so then why do you re-upload videos of little girls on your YouTube account as well?
Oh. That got hacked as well. And I actually contacted
do you see where I'm having a problem? I'm having a problem because every time that we're able to establish that there is an account that is held by you, it's been hacked at some point.
But that's because I gave the information to Fine Dining
then.
Yeah.
Afterward, Daniel...
Yeah, and this is, I think, people like, well, I mean, one of the most notable people to, associated with Daniel Larson commentary, who's willing to give Daniel the benefit of the doubt in that kind of situation, especially over the Pinterest scandal, as, relatively low, visible scandal that it was. Papa Gut's willing to say, I don't know the about the veracity of that claim. And it's like, okay, Hunt, first off, like, he lots of times will use his wife's job in mental health, I believe is the deal. I don't know exactly what she does, but he's referenced how his wife works in mental health. And I understand like picking up information about that kind of stuff when it's not even something you do, just because like your spouse or other otherwise significant other does that kind of work. Like, you talk to them about your day at work and you learn about their job that they've put a lot of education into, right? This is how you show interest in your partner, right? And so yeah, like, I understand where Papa Gut wants to say stuff like, oh, well, if he does have those kind of inclinations, in his case, it may be due to a sort of arrested development, like developmentally speaking, right? Like just because of like the way his conditions all like intersect with each other, it's caused like a severe case of like his brain just like not really developing past a certain age and just not fully understanding that he's not a kid. At the same time, though, like you'll see parts like this, like where in that Roach record, which is like a fake record company. This is just like a group of a few people trolling him to let him believe that he's this kind of famous singer of sorts that he thinks he is, because people on the internet feed his delusions of that began with a simple desire to be a famous singer. Anyway, it's just like like he'll just like make up these little lies on the spot where like he knows that this is not something acceptable, right? So like either the Arrested Development has like got him like stuck in this sort of age where he thinks this is okay, even though he may consciously know that he's older and stuff. But in which case you might see something a bit more like, I don't know, like probably the most famous person to have a clear, like, psychological arrested development of sorts, I think, is Michael Jackson, though honestly, I'm of the opinion that while something almost certainly happened to the, well, now men who claim Jackson was inappropriate with them as children, I think something definitely happened to them as children, but all of everything I know about, like, there were, like, serious, like, decade-long investigations into Michael Jackson in particular, and they've taken down, like, far more famous and powerful people for, this sort of thing, not just since Michael Jackson's passing, but even before Michael Jackson, right? So it's like, this is not something that the federal government takes lightly. If they had found anything on him, he would have, like, something would have been done about it. It wouldn't just be these, civil cases that have happened, many of which were, it just is a thing. It's like, but, like Michael Jackson, he was put in the spotlight from the age of about 7 years old. Granted, in the early interviews and stuff, when the Jackson Five, him and four of his brothers, were starting out with, Michael as the lead singer, his father told him, like, no, tell them you're 5, because as a 7-8-year-old singer, you're good. But if you were 5 and you're a little bit small for your age, but so you can get away with saying you're 5, and if you said you were 5, then suddenly you sound excellent, right? Like, you go from good to excellent if you lie about your age a little bit, especially since he was a little bit on the smaller side for 7-8 years old, right? So, and the and Joseph Jackson was just like this notoriously abusive father, and plus, like, their mother was a Jehovah's Witness, so that brought with it its own set of weirdness in the Jackson family growing up, and so, like, a lot of psychology like mental health professionals have suggested that, like, there is this part of Michael Jackson's like psyche, right, like, that just got stuck in the it's like when people say that when you become famous at a certain age, part of your personality will be stuck at about that age, and that's an oversimplification of things, but in some ways, you can see it's true, and at least a number of psychologists have said, like, yeah, it's not a guarantee, but it does happen often enough that people are not wrong to notice it when it does. So yeah, like I said, Michael Jackson was certainly an eccentric, but, like, the FBI doesn't investigate that kind of crime involving children into somebody for over a decade to come up with nothing and then just drop their investigation because they came up with nothing for, after over a decade looking into this guy, right? Like, they found shit on Epstein, like, long before he was put in the cell where he was deleted somehow. I do agree with people who say that something fishy went on with Epstein being no more. Just I don't think it was a grand conspiracy either, but it was kind of fishy. But just because, like, so much of what actually happened was just outside, U.S., prosecutory jurisdiction, it took like finding the right combination of technicalities to bring him in, right? So yeah, like they were able to find the right combination of technicalities to bring in Epstein, and then questionable circumstances under his deletion, right? But Michael Jackson, who always lived in the U.S., where the alleged things happened in the U.S., and they found nothing on him in over 10 years, and then just dropped the investigation because it was a waste of everybody's time and energy. So yeah, like I said, something happened to those men who've accused Michael Jackson of having done something when they were children. Something happened to them. I don't think it was Michael Jackson. I think Michael Jackson just was kind of an easy scapegoat for them, rather than like admit to them, even to themselves, who actually did that to them, which, if that's the case, it's more likely to be a family member, which is just all the more heartbreaking to think about. But yeah, so when somebody's got a case of arrested development like Michael Jackson, like I said, he's eccentric. He was eccentric. He definitely, he definitely had an unusual fondness of children. But again, after 10 years of investigating, like, authorities who take these things very seriously found nothing, that kind of inappropriate. It was unusual, right? Not inappropriate. So yeah, it's like there's a line between, like, like if we were going to go with Papa Gut's little hypothesis based on the little tidbits about this kind of mental health situation that he's picked up from listening to his wife talk about her profession. If we were gonna like follow his hypothesis, it's like, well, yeah, even if we assume that there is some part of arrested development within the way Daniel Larson's personality developed, like due to a combination of his mental health conditions and the alleged abuse before his grandmother gained full custody of him. And I say alleged abuse just like because, well, when somebody with his mental health profile, like, his neurodivergent profile, develops those kind of inappropriate ideas about kids, it's usually coming from a passive abuse, like especially somebody with his kind of mental faculties, right? It's usually coming from a point of abuse. What kind of abuse is anybody's guess. Daniel has at times accused his mother of being the one to do that kind of thing, and he's been a little bit more explicit about the allegations. But then, like, a few weeks later, a month later, whatever, he'd take it back, say that kind of thing. That, like, he goes back and forth on these things a lot. He's not the most reliable narrator to his own life, but there are some threads that do come up enough that you can say, okay, that this may in fact be the case, because there is this bit of consistency. So yeah, I can see why people say Papa Gut makes excuses for Daniel Larson, because it's like no, arrested development, like in his personality and his psyche, however you want to phrase it, that may explain some stuff here and there, but like I said, then we point to Michael Jackson, where yes, he's an eccentric. Yes, he had an unusual relationship with children, but again, after like over a decade of investigation, federal agents who were investigating him for that kind of stuff found nothing. So we can say unusual, but probably not inappropriate, probably not illegal, because they found nothing after bit over a decade of investigation. Daniel Larson, on the other hand, it's like no. Arrested Development can explain like why he might be, drawn to, pop singers working for Disney, right? Like Disney, related pop singers, right? It could explain something like that. Like I said, like we go back to Michael Jackson and like as an example of psychological arrest, in development. But Daniel Larson doesn't end with, Disney associated pop singers being in like his top faves or whatever. He doesn't, end his, his Arrested Development, that would be like why he's on TikTok more, the most, because it's an app that's largely, even still largely used by younger people. But it doesn't explain his highly inappropriate interests in children, which have been very confirmed. So no, it's, and yet it continues.
Or to pretending on and off that he didn't even know what Pinterest was, fueling speculation about his pathological lying tendencies, particularly with guilt.
Somebody was telling me of some type of social platform called...
Yeah, that Ray Pissed pseudonym was just... People are not subtle about this with Larson, and only about half the time he gets it when they're, when they're using a clear trolling pseudonym. Only about half the time he gets it. To be fair, like, yeah, people will say, oh, well, Chris Chan couldn't get it when, didn't get it when people were using obvious trolling pseudonyms, like, like Vanessa Hudgens, who I guess is a Disney associated actress. Like, I guess she was on some kind of Disney Channel stuff. I don't even, I never paid attention to Disney Channel stuff, in part because I don't know, I don't think it quite existed when I was a littler kid in the 80s. I watched Punky Brewster a lot when I was about that age. But yeah, like if Disney Channel existed on cable in the 80s, it was nowhere near what it became in like the mid 90s or something, right? So yeah, like all the like Disney Channel, pop stars that have come out, that was all like after my time, especially when I was in the target age for that kind of stuff, right? And when I was in the target age for that kind of stuff, it didn't exist. So yeah, it's like, it's like, Chris Chan's a little bit younger than me, so like maybe he wouldn't realize that Vanessa, right? Like, so I guess I can kind of, it depends on like how much Chris Chan was paying attention to like Disney Channel stuff at the time of the Vanessa Hudgens troll. So I'm like, what? And then there's the other like famous troll from about that time, famous Chris Chan troll from about that time as well, where the person used the pseudonym Blanca Weiss, which is Spanish for white plus German for white as the last name, right? So white, which was playing on the part in Chris Chan's old attraction sign circa 2006 through 9ish, thereabouts. The attraction sign saying, like no African Americans need apply, right? So I can see what like Blanca, depending on the part of the world you're in, could be a common enough first name. Like, there's the name Bianca, which I think is like a French version of Blanca. So Bianca is a common enough first name. So I can see like somebody saying, deciding on naming their child Blanca instead of Bianca, just like a different dialect variant. And Chris didn't know any German language at the time, so it's like, yeah, of course Chris wouldn't pick up on that. But the trolling pseudonym Ray Pissed, like, oh my god, Chris Chan would have figured that out. like, like, I'm sorry. Do you have any idea like how, like how cognitively challenged one needs to be, like, this. And then, like I said, like then there's like some of them where he at least seems to get it, but you're still not sure. Like, Daniel Larson is a very curious case.
Old Pinterest? Huh. I wonder what type of printer it uses.
Regardless of whether or not trolls played a role in situation, more than a half-hearted apology, including his former management team and Roach Records, the return who actually responded.
Okay, if Hudgens was in High School Musical, yeah, of course, and and if Bianca's the Italian form, okay. But yeah, like, you can understand why, like, Chris might assume that's just like somebody's given name as Blanca, which, like I said, like the Spanish form of Bianca, which would be the Italian form, because Bianca is a common enough first name. Yeah, like, I guess I can see, like, oh, Chris didn't get it, but at the same time, like these were people also like making up troll pseudonyms that would fly over the head of someone who wasn't as well versed in languages as they are. Because, yeah, Chris never took a German class. Of course she wouldn't know that Vice is German for white. And yeah, Bianca is a common enough, first name given to kids in the United States anyway. So it would make sense if somebody's parents decided to go with like a Spanish form of Blanca instead of Bianca. It's just, no, like, you didn't pull a fast one over on Chris with that one. At least not as much as you seem to think. Whereas, like, people are just like using the most obvious troll pseudonyms to talk to Daniel Larson, and it's just like, like, you can see like how, like, I will always have a part of my personality, a part of my psyche that just feels sorry for this for Larson, because this is somebody who is just like not really fit to function on their own, but has been forced into a situation where they kind of have to. And, like, yeah, like, they've done and said some Larson in particular has done and said some terrible things, which, he should be held accountable for as much as he can. But I'm not sure, like, that's what a lot of people, think it looks like, right? Just because he is just, he is so much more cognitively challenged than somebody like Chris Chan. And like Chris, yes, Chris has her challenges, and but it's nothing where, like, people forget, like, for the like 5+ years before the unspeakable deed with her mother, she was basically running the household. Like Christine was able to get bills paid in a responsible manner, maybe not all of the time on time. They, they as in like she and her mom definitely got like a shut off notice every once in a while. But still like was able to get things paid. Yes, did she utilize, internet panhandling, or e-begging as people, prefer to say? Yeah, but she was able to utilize it in a manner that, where she was able to get the bills paid, to keep the lights on and get groceries when necessary, right? So it's like, yeah, she doesn't have the greatest sense of priorities and scheduling, like how to get things taken care of in a responsible manner, but she understands the gravity of these situations when she doesn't do them when she should, and is able to do what she can to right the matter that she got stuck into by forgetting to pay the bills for however long. So yeah, Chris definitely does need some help here and there. Definitely needs somebody to come look in on her from time to time and make sure things are okay. But she's just about competent enough to live independently, just like with somebody looking in just to make sure she's okay. Daniel Larson, on the other hand, and like I said, like relative to his challenges, if you want to compare to Chris Chan, as Kusari did at the beginning of this part of the documentary, like relative to Daniel Larson's challenges, and just like the he has the worst trolls. He has the worst trolls, especially when compared to Chris Chan, and you take, their, you take the differences, right? Like Chris is a bit more competent in living independently than Daniel could ever be. And I think a lot of people, especially because it was like the mid-noughts when Chris was discovered by Something Awful, and some months later by 4chan. So, you got, because it was the mid-noughts of, the early part of the 21st century, the trolls Chris got were a little bit older than the ones who go after Daniel Larson. And it seemed to cut like 50-50, like, yeah, for every goofy email, especially in the earliest, years of trolling Chris Chan, for every goofy email, you'd get maybe every 2 or 3 goofy emails, like trying to goof on Chris, or definitely for every one trollish girlfriend, who Chris now refers to as her theoretical exes, right? So for every one of those kind of situations, you had another person, like trying to talk some sense into Chris in some way. Some a little bit, kinder than others, but you had somebody who could recognize that Chris is just, is just together enough that, they can learn something, and learn how to better themselves. They just have to want to do it. And yeah, like I said, like, there were trollish girlfriend characters, and then there was the infamous Blue Spike incident, and we all hope because people also forget Blue Spike was 14 when that happened. So like, yeah, you really hope that that kid grew up and realizes how awful he was during that. So yeah, whereas like it seems like on average, like the average Daniel Larson troll seems to be a teenager of some sort. And Kusari goes into this, and like even in just like this first part of the documentary, there have so far only been 2 people who found Daniel Larson via the internet who seem to have Daniel's best interest in mind with this online, with like communicating with Daniel and connecting through the internet. The first one is a YouTuber and TikTok creator known as Brink, who has since taken down or at least made private his Daniel Larson related content. Feeling like there's that there was like this exploitative angle to it, and realizing that Daniel is more invested in the in the trollish toxicity, and also he was really uncomfortable when he realized like how true the inappropriate feelings Daniel had towards children actually are. It's like, but he said like, he wishes Daniel well. He, if he runs into Daniel again, like maybe get him some like food out to eat, or, get him some clean t-shirts or something. But yeah, he had to disconnect. And the other person who's been a little bit more active, even after like distancing himself, realizing just how stubborn Daniel is an indie actor and van life creator known as Oxus, real first name Ivan. He also genuinely seems to have Daniel's best interest in mind. And like I said, like in the same amount of time, Chris Chan had, like a much more even ratio of malicious actors versus people who had Chris's, better interests in mind. Just, we're just like trying to get through to Chris in a way that wasn't very effective, right? And it makes me realize that, like, yeah, like the story of Chris Chan can be a cautionary tale of how of how like the internet can be, detrimental to somebody's mental health. But it's like it's like younger people just kind of like took the wrong message from that, and like almost took it as a challenge to be even worse, right? Of course, then again, like, you got to realize, like, not everybody has seen the Gino Samuel documentary by the time Daniel Larson started, blowing up on the internet, mostly on TikTok. But it's like somewhere in the universe, somebody decided to take this as a personal challenge, and like, let's see if we can make somebody who's already a little worse off in the mental health department and make them even worse. Like, let's take the story of Chris Chan, not as a cautionary tale, but as a personal challenge to be even worse. And it just, I can't help but feel bad for the guy. Like, he's clearly got a shit deal in life, like from birth onward. And the internet has only made it worse. And
responsible for his actions. After making accusations against his management team, he switched to another and claimed to have signed with Interscope and Party House Records.
Hello, this is Daniel Larson. I am signed with Party House Records and Interscope Records. I am not signed with any other record labels. For all my fans that think I am with a different record label, do not believe it. The only record label I am with is Party House Records and Interscope Records. Thank you.
He even claimed that people were taking pictures of his home and showing up at his doorstep, but users on the official Daniel Larson subreddit revealed that they had randomly found him at certain times, indicating that he was easy to locate. However, he did mention that people were making hundreds of dollars worth of pizza orders to his house, which he posted about on TikTok. Despite the scandal, Daniel continued to upload videos fulfilling fan requests and expressing his delusions of being a famous celebrity. He rarely addressed the allegations, but when he did, he vehemently denied any wrongdoing and blamed his former management team for everything. However, his behavior suggested otherwise. Due to Daniel's history of pathological lying and miscommunication, it's difficult to discern what really happened. Nevertheless, this event marked a significant turning point in his story. As Daniel tried to deflect blame for his erratic behavior, he claimed that a private investigator had uncovered the truth and that the media was out to smear him. However, it was evident that his allegations were baseless, since he could not afford a mediator, and he had no concrete evidence to support his claims that the media was conspiring against him. As days went by, it became increasingly difficult to comprehend the reasons behind Daniel's behavior, as it appeared completely unpredictable. In an attempt to portray himself as a typical celebrity, he posted a tribute to Blake Shelton for Black Lives Matter on social media, complete with his version of jumping jacks in an empty street. While the tribute appeared genuine, it was unclear whether he did it at his manager's suggestion or whether he genuinely cared about the cause. He followed this up with a video asking for his fans to stop the George Floyd riots, and another where he believed his fans were actually responsible for the riots. Things took a controversial turn on May 1st, 2021, when Daniel posted a video on his YouTube channel giving a shout-out to EDP445, a notorious YouTuber and convicted sex offender. To the surprise of many, Daniel suggested that he and EDP445 should collaborate in the future.
Hello, this is Daniel Larson. I just wanted to shout out the YouTuber EDP445. I am sorry for the allegations against you. I am sorry. We are in this together. I have been there too. I hope we could possibly collaborate in the future.
This statement marked the beginning of the headset era in the Larson-verse, with every video featuring Daniel wearing a comically large headset. However, the biggest shock came in a video where Daniel revealed that he now identified as transgender.
Hello, this is Daniel Larson, and this is because it is Transgender Awareness Month, I am transgender. Please stay tuned.
Now, this and the EDP shout out, I think it's pretty clear that these two things were definitely something that people were trolling him to say. So yeah, like, take him with a pinch of salt. But I do kind of appreciate how yeah, like I said, I think the EDP shout out as well as this here are things that trolls got him to say. I think that's pretty obvious, but I do also appreciate that Kusari just presents it in a fairly neutral manner, and but you can tell from his tone that he is on the sympathetic side. He just by the second and third parts of his documentary on Larson, you can sense like a gradually increasing frustration with just everything, right? Because like, Larson does, have an amount of agency in what he does. Like, he's not so disabled that he can't be held accountable for a lot of what he does and says, but he's also very easily manipulated, very gullible. So, you gotta weigh this against it. You gotta, like, find a balance in there. So, like, like I said, I think the Kusari doc is is really, really good in that respect, because you can sense that, you know, he's still got some, you know, sympathy for Daniel's situation, that at the very least you can say that he definitely feels bad for Daniel, that, you know, this is a situation that should not have gotten to where it is currently. Although where it is currently today, with Daniel apparently being in jail in Aurora, Colorado for the last 10 days, possibly up to 120 just for failure to appear in court for a number of charges. I hope it can get Larson the, you know, mandatory mental health care that he needs. And it sucks that it has to be that way, but I hope it does get that way. I don't think you were in just yet, Josh, when no, not that one. When I was also like scrolling through the playlist from another Daniel Larson chronicler on YouTube, Jet Airplane TV is their channel name, and they have another pretty decent series on Daniel Larson in you know, a documentary format, but the parts are shorter, and no, not that one. God damn it. Whatever. But he does come off a little bit more snarky, and, you know, I can understand that, but he also covers like some of the smaller incidents that Kusari has not touched on, going back the last couple of years. And the first part of the Jet Airplane TV series on Daniel Larson does have it does have a little bit more about Larson's childhood than Kusari included. A little bit, not enough that, you know, I think it was that he got something important in there that Kusari neglected to share, but at the same time, like I said, like his whole attitude towards Daniel, towards covering Daniel Larson, it's a little bit snarkier than Kusari. I think Kusari comes down on the sympathetic side of neutral, even if sometimes just barely, because, you know, like I said, though disabled, though clearly, you know, cognitively challenged, developmentally speaking, Daniel Larson is very obviously handicapped in a number of ways. He's also got his own agency in the world, and he's able to, you know, do and say things that he at least does show by the fact that he's willing to lie about it at some times, even though at other times he will freely admit to it. But, you know, he does understand just enough to know that there are times when it's better for him to lie about it, even if it's at a point where he should think, you know, I don't know. Then again, he is pretty challenged, but, you know, like he's got just enough understanding of how the world works to lie about some things, you know, about himself and his inappropriate intentions towards kids and stuff.
Please help us out. Stay tuned. Thank you.
This revelation was only the beginning of a series of events that would send shockwaves through his fan base. As Daniel tried to recover from the Pinterest account scandal, a new scandal soon emerged, which the Larson heads have come to refer to as the May 6th incident. While the name might sound ominous, it pales in comparison to the psychological trauma that was inflicted upon his fans. Daniel uploaded a live concert on TikTok where he played music through his headset, which unfortunately was inaudible to his audience. Later that day, he announced that he would be quitting TikTok and doing a live stream where he would audition for an adult film. This announcement set off alarm bells among his followers, who knew that he had previously spoken about being coerced into doing such activities by his former managers.
That shot where he was walking just a little bit, you could really tell the microcephaly on him.
Hello everyone, this is Daniel Larson. Tonight at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, I will be doing a audition on TikTok, so please stay tuned. It is for adult films. Please stay tuned. Are you guys tuned in yet? This is your last chance. Get tuned in. Also, I will be quitting TikTok. So everyone, this is your
Daniel's also got like a really unusual speech impediment. You'll notice like when he's, like when it's a word that begins with a QU, like quit or question, he will replace that QU sound with a CR sound. Like he said he'll be critting TikTok. A lot of times he'll say, "Can I ask you a question?" It's an unusual kind of speech impediment. You don't see that very often.
last chance to follow.
As expected, a large number of people tuned in to watch the live stream, and true to his word, Daniel proceeded to expose himself to the camera, resulting in his accounts being permanently banned. A few hours later, he emerged on another account claiming that he had been hacked. In a desperate attempt to distance himself from the scandal, he declared that he had nothing to do with the live stream and urged his fans to not look at pictures of his genitals.
Hello everyone, this is my new account. Please follow this new account. This is my new account. Once again, this is my new account. Please. Hello everyone, this is Daniel Larson. Yesterday we were under attack, we got hacked. We lost everything, so please give us a follow back.
The turbulent period in Daniel Larson's career is a matter of public record, and the Daniel Larson Wiki provides some insight into what happened during this time. According to the wiki, Daniel was persuaded by his former manager, Flexburger, to participate in a TikTok live stream and post an explicit photo on his YouTube community page. The exact circumstances surrounding these events are unclear, but it was during this time that Daniel declared war on Flexburger, which had a lasting impact on his fans and tarnished his reputation. Flexburger seems to have been one of the first to discover Daniel's Pinterest account, which he then used to expose him. He went on a campaign to reveal audio recordings of Daniel, which captured him making a 12-year-old skateboarder named Skybrum. Flexburger also pretended to be a minor and engaged in conversations with Daniel similar to the tactics used in sting operations. Daniel's behavior during these interactions was reprehensible, as he made explicit comments and solicited minors. Didn't bring up his
like Flexburger and other people have approached Larson through DMs, usually posing as kids as young as 10, and he ends up initiating very inappropriate conversations with people he believes are kids as young as 10. He has sent his own anatomical photos to, I believe he did send one to the real Grace Vanderwall, or at least that's alleged. He's definitely sent many to the Grace Vander trolls, the ones posing as her. to gain his trust, to get him to say incredibly outlandish things, perhaps manipulate him into doing incredibly outlandish things. But yeah, he's been sexually obsessed with Grace VanderWaal since he was 17 and she was 12. And just you know what, we're gonna get to the Grace VanderWaal chapter in the Kusari doc pretty soon, so
These text messages were referenced in Daniel's announcement. Once Daniel announced a lockdown and vented his frustrations towards Flexburger, even threatening to involve the FBI. However, Flexburger managed to re-enter Daniel's circle by posing as an Interscope manager named Josh, leading to the May 6th incident.
Because of what Flexburger posted, we are going on lockdown. Everybody, we are going on lockdown. Stay tuned for what happens next. And Flexburger on YouTube and TikTok, you are a fucking bitch for exposing me. We are calling the Denver Police Department and reporting you. The FBI will be coming to your house.
The day after the incident, Daniel went on a TikTok live stream and exposed himself once again, connecting the allegations with other incriminating clips.
I went into it. It was my decision. What?
If you became president, we make pedophilia illegal or legal?
So, I would, it's kind of interesting. That's a very good point. In my opinion, if underage can actually do porn with the consent of parents, if, they do, I feel...
So yeah, like, that was an open question that was asked of him. And yet you still occasionally see people, like, trying to, like, defend Larson and make excuses about, and claim, oh yeah, that was a very open question that was asked of him. If he was president, would PDF files be legal or illegal? And Larson kind of stumbles over his words for a minute and then says, well, that's a very good point. Like, what point? Right, which just, like, you can tell he's cognitively not all there, but then he proceeds to say, well, with parental permission, they can do CSA material if it's done the right way. And I'm like, what the hell? Yeah, what the hell? Like, that was a very open-ended question that the person, in charge of this Zoom call being recorded asked of him. And he did clearly understand it on some level if he's responding to it with what he said. So yeah, like, he's not up. Yeah, like what parent would give permission? Exactly, right? Like so basically he's saying that it would be legal for for parents to traffic their child for crack money, I guess. I hate to pull out the stereotypes, since I know you from Catboy Ranch, and like, Keffels did all the cocaines, but and has made Twitter shit posts about cleaning up the streets by doing all the crack. But it's like, I mean, in some parts of the United States, these stereotypes are unfortunately kind of true, right? So it's like, yeah, like I said, he clearly understood the question enough to answer it in the way he did, and it was an open question. It wasn't leading in one direction or another, right? Like, it wasn't a leading question that you could say was got this answer manipulated out of him. This was an open question that he answered in a way that shows he does understand what the question meant. Right, he's so yeah, like when people say that you don't want him around children, it's coming from, some pretty some pretty considerable evidence that he at the very least has very inappropriate ideas about kids. Yeah, that's the closest equivalent I could think of to hearing parental permission. Right. Like this is gonna be like some. Yeah. This is So yeah, like when I say that Daniel Larson has made me appreciate just like how how much Chris actually has her shit together. Like Chris Chan, make for the challenges Chris Chan was born with and born into, because like her parents were literally in their 40s and 50s when she was born in 1982. These are parents who were getting close to the retirement age at that time. These are not people who wanted who are at the who are at the older age of a parent. These are people at the younger age of a grandparent. And they were very stubborn, and they had some very outdated ideas on special education, and they were very neglectful in the sense of getting Chris the special ed that she really needed at the time. So, in spite of all of this, yeah, Chris still has many challenges. It did not turn out a great person. You could argue didn't even turn out a good person, but Chris turned out surprisingly competent, right? Like she's competent. Like she can mostly take care of a household in the sense of like keeping the lights on and keeping the fridge, filled. So, I mean, yeah, sometimes she had to scramble to, use what resources she'd been used to using to get an amount, to get the minimum amount of funding in time to make these things, happen. But she was able to do it. Like, she is refreshingly competent given all the challenges that she was born with and born into. And, and the very clear neglect of her geriatric parents who, like, you can say, especially Bob had the best intentions with Chris as a young child, but because I kind of like Bob Chandler. Like, again, not somebody who you'd necessarily call a good person. He definitely did seem to have some racist ideas and very homophobic ideas, but at the same time, like some of the troll calls that were recorded with Bob, the man had some quick wit, and I like to think that there can be an alternate universe where he was an insult comic. Like, so like Bob Chandler is kind of kind of an entertaining old coot in a way. But again, like, a lot of people can see more with Bob than with Barbara, just because Barbara does seem to tick a lot of boxes as a narcissistic parent. Before her brain started turning to cottage cheese, of course. But like, like you can see that like Chris's parents, especially Bob, were very well intended, but they also like failed her as their parents in a number of ways. So the fact that Chris turned out as competent as she did is, it's enough to remark upon. That, yeah, I mean, yeah, Chris has also done some pretty heinous things, and in spite of what she's now claiming, there is sufficient evidence to say that yes, she did do the unspeakable thing with her mother, and while it is very frustrating to a lot of people that the charges were dropped, and that she was only charged with incest against her mother, given Barb's apparent cognitive decline. Yeah, it's another situation of just like, it is what it is. But yeah, like I said, like Daniel Larson has really made me appreciate like how competent Chris Chan is, and how, like, if we're gonna put it on a sliding scale of, you know, internet lolcows who are decent people who just got a raw deal out of life versus very terrible, should be put away for a while. Chris Chan is kind of middle. Like, Pixie Terry, she's another legendary internet lolcow. Not as much talk today as she used to be. There was a really nice little documentary somebody did on Pixie Terry, and you know, yeah, she's got her own difficulties, and you know, hasn't always made the best choices, but you can also see where like Pixie Terry always very much meant well and seemed to also, again, very gullible, but also wanted to do the better thing in the world. Like, you know, she wasn't a bad person. She wasn't a bad person, just a very misguided person, and, you know, arguably quite gullible person, especially when she was younger. So, you know, like, not a great person, but a decent person, you know. Daniel Larson, I wouldn't say he's the worst one of the most infamous or legendary in some way internet lolcows, but he's pretty bad. You know, Chris Chan is probably somewhere in the middle. Like, all things considered, like, yeah, she's done some bad shit. She's also a very misunderstood person when she tries to do good things. It's like I said, I put Chris Chan somewhere in the middle. Not especially good, but not especially bad either. Or definitely not in the amongst the worst. You know, somewhere in the middle-ish. Daniel Larson, definitely measurably worse person than Chris Chan. Yeah, child slavery. That's definitely what Daniel Larson thinks should be legal if he were president. Yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, and child essay slavery to boot too, right? He's a piece of work. Hello.
I feel like it should come from both ways.
I repent.
Hello, Phoebe.
That I am sorry for masturbating to pictures of children and Grace. I am sorry.
I am sorry for having 500 megabytes of child porn.
Initially, people attributed Daniel's behavior to him being a mouth.
Oh yeah, that thing with the megabytes, that's something else that's like, I see that little confession about the 500 megabytes of materials that he confessed to in that little tiny clip there. There is reason to believe that that may be something that somebody goaded him into saying, but it's also based on an apparent fact, going by a time that his photo roll on his smartphone got leaked somehow. So yeah, it's the specific way that clip was worded. Again, it like I don't think Larson has the greatest understanding of how much a megabyte is. So it sounds like it could have been a number that somebody like threw out randomly and goaded him into saying. But again, it seems to be based on fact. So
piece for his followers. However, recent events suggested that it was Daniel's own doing. In a TikTok posted just before the incidents, Daniel claimed that his parole officer warned him about the possibility of going to jail for something he had done. Although he didn't specify what it was, people connected it to a period of 3 weeks when he was absent from social media, during which he gave various conflicting explanations.
Hello, this is Daniel Larson. I just got in trouble with my probation officer for not following the probation rules. Unfortunately, there was a miscommunication. He said if it happens anymore, I will go to jail. Please help me, guys. I need your support.
After this point, numerous accounts were created, hacked, or allegedly hacked, and then deleted. Overall, this series of events that transpired during this period was shocking and disturbing, leaving a lasting impression on Daniel's fans and damaging his reputation. Despite attempts to blame others for his behavior, it's clear that Daniel was ultimately responsible for his actions, and the consequences have been severe. On the 11th of May, Daniel went live on another stream, where he had a meeting with the therapist assigned to work on his case. As a positive step, a sign that Daniel was finally seeking help for his mental health issues. Unfortunately, this optimism was short-lived, as the entire session was recorded without the therapist's knowledge. It was clear that the only reason Daniel had broadcasted the stream was to show people that he was speaking with the therapist. He repeatedly bragged about his supposed fame, telling her that he had somehow garnered 40 million views, a blatant lie intended to impress her. Around the same time, Daniel's most infamous pathology was unleashed as he stopped suppressing his unhealthy obsession with Grace VanderWaal and became more public about it. It all began on May 12, 2021, when he claimed that he and Grace had a collaboration in the works that would be released soon. Although it seemed like a harmless statement, it was obviously untrue. Daniel's peculiar and unsettling infatuation with Grace VanderWaal reportedly began during his teenage years when he used to watch America's Got Talent with his grandmother. The show had become a treasured bonding activity for the two, but one particular episode proved to be especially significant for Daniel. It was during this episode that Grace VanderWaal, a singer-songwriter and contestant on the show.
This was when she was 12 years old. She was on the show when she was 12 years old, and Daniel began watching her, began taking notice of her when he was 17. Meanwhile, every time we hear something like that, it's more, I don't think Larson understands like the difference of like megabytes versus gigabytes or something, but yeah, like I said, like keep in mind that this Daniel Larson began fixating on Grace VanderWaal when he was 17 and she was 12, and she very much looked like she was 11 or 12 years old. Like this is a kid. This is somebody who both is a kid and looks like a kid. Like she looks like a child, and he was 17. Now I will say that when I was 12 years old, I did not look like I was 12 years old. This is because the whole like AFAB thing, and at the age I had a fairly mild case of precocious, started developing a little bit earlier than the average. So when I was 12 years old, I was already wearing a bra cup with double D. So like, yeah, I was still 12. So if somebody had learned that and still found me attractive at at that age regardless, in spite of that, then yeah, then that's a problem. But if they were to see me walking down the street, I mean, to be fair, I was also like 4'7", 4'8". But then again, like with that kind of, measurement, bra cup size, most people would not think that looks like a 12-year-old. They'd think that looks like, a borderline dwarven, adult, or at the very least older teenager, right? With anatomy of that proportion. So like I'm just saying that, like, every so often, it's not very common, but every so often you will see a 12-year-old who does not look like a 12-year-old. Grace VanderWaal on America's Got Talent was a 12-year-old who looked like a 12-year-old. And this is the and this is the Grace, this is the mental image of Grace that has overwhelmingly stuck in Daniel Larson's mind. So yeah, she's older now. Like, it's been 7 years since. So he's, oh God, no, 8 years since. Yeah, so he's like 25 now. So she's gonna be, so she's 20, and she looks 20. She's honestly, it was like getting into Daniel Larson that got me interested in her music, just out of curiosity. And she's I mean, first off, she has aged rather gracefully. She's very I mean, if yeah, I mean, she's fairly conventionally attractive. She definitely looks about her age. She's yeah, I like the picture on that album. I think she was like 17, maybe 16 when that album cover was shot. But this is okay, 6 months ago, so like 1920. I don't remember when her birthday is, but she's very talented, and she's very, like I said, B. So I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that is I'm not saying that's asking for it. I can understand why people would be attracted to her at her current age. A very talented singer-songwriter. She's, quite conventionally attractive, even pretty. But yeah, at 12 years old, she looked like a 12-year-old. And so even at the age of 17, that's a bit inappropriate. But it doesn't get better.
The show captured his attention with her remarkable performance that earned her a golden buzzer from the panel of judges. As the young girl captivated the audience with her voice, Daniel expressed his admiration for her out loud to his grandma. His grandmother responded with a hopeful comment, saying, "Maybe one day you will be with her when you make it big as a singer."
So, yeah, one day maybe you'll be with her when you make it big as a singer. Like, to somebody, neurotypical, that would, well, first off, to somebody neurotypical, saying that to a neurotypical 17-year-old, first off, like, why would you say that to a neurotypical 17-year-old? Because he's 17 and she's 12. If he's already, expressing a certain kind of admiration that would lead her to saying, maybe you'll be with her someday when you make it big as a singer. Like that implies that what he was saying to his grandmother about her was, a bit inappropriate for a child of that age, which, yeah, like, 17, it's almost a legal adult, but, for a kid of that age, you gotta remember that 17 is not appropriate. It's not appropriate for a kid of 17 years old to be thinking like that about a 12-year-old who looks 12. That you have to be reinforcing the idea of like these kind of boundaries at that age, like perhaps especially with somebody who's got Daniel Larson's developmental challenges. So, like, I do think his grandmother meant well, but at the same time, it seems like while she seemed to be a very sweet woman, she would like, and she definitely seems to understand that developmentally he's, very far behind most other kids his age. That seems to translate her to treat him in all other aspects as a kid much younger than his chronological age, which, like I said, I can see how that was well-intentioned, but I don't think it was helpful at all. And I think it kind of like reinforced in a way, perhaps, again, I'm speaking as a layman in terms of like developmental psychology, but I don't think it did any good for Daniel Larson's understanding of what is and isn't appropriate in that sense. So
this one comment appeared to have struck a chord with Daniel, and it seems to have fueled his obsession with Grace ever since.
Daniel idolized the most.
Believe it or not, I actually have a couple idols, and out of the females, probably Kelsey Ballerini, Taylor Swift, and Grace Vanderwall.
However, in mid-2021, Daniel's fixation on Grace spiraled out to the point where he started telling strangers that they were dating.
Excuse me, I just have something I want to say real quick. If you know the singer Grace Vanderwall, okay, so she was on America's Got Talent, and she was a winner on the show. I'm an upcoming singer, and we are going to end up dating. So if we could spread the word, that would. Daniel Larson.
He even went as far as recording suggestive videos of himself moaning and whispering, supposedly for Grace. This behavior led to a breakup with her and an apology for the videos he made. Although he claimed to have been misled by malicious trolls, his actions went far beyond what was necessary. He didn't limit his harassment to Grace either, as he also targeted Darcy Lynn and Sky Brown. But Grace was always his primary focus. He would frequently comment on her TikTok and Instagram posts, engaging in bizarre, one-sided conversations with her. One particularly when Daniel appeared on TikTok desperate for information about Grace, claimed to be in contact with him about an accident. He became so distraught that he began hitting himself and even threatened to end his own life. Sometime this period, trolls managed to come into contact with Daniel and asked him to spread awareness to the public about Grace's supposed death, which turned out to be yet another hoax. This resulted in a spree of videos where he frantically exclaimed in public spaces that there was a celebrity in the hospital and urged.
There's currently a celebrity in the hospital. We are asking that the information gets loose. Thank you, everyone. Please spread the message. There's currently a celebrity. There's currently a celebrity in the hospital. Please spread the news.
This led to him getting kicked out of some restaurants and businesses, with one of these incidents being recorded by Daniel himself.
There is currently a celebrity in the hospital. We are asking that the message. That's very rude of you.
And you're just talking gibberish. Just go.
That was assault, by the way.
No, was it?
Yeah, it was. I have it on film.
Okay, film.
No, I'm not going to because you tried to grab me.
I did not try to.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. It's all on film. It's all
He posted a YouTube video titled "Rest in Peace, Dave and Grace Vanderwall Mornings." He claimed that somehow Grace had simultaneously taken her own life and had a heart attack. In a moment of rare self-awareness, he admitted to soliciting minors and sending inappropriate photos to Grace or whoever he believed was her. He promised to carry on her legacy and make amends for his wrongdoings.
I know Grace is going to want this video thing that I've done. I admit to sexting minors and sexting Grace and sending Grace a dick pic. I'm sorry for Bruce so much stress that she takes her own life and has a heart attack. Her last words to me was, Daniel, I look up to you.
However, this moment of clarity was fleeting. Daniel soon resumed his obsessive behavior, convinced that he and Grace were periodically dating and breaking up. It's hard to imagine how things could get any stranger, but they did. It caught the attention of the Vanderwall, specifically Grace's mother, T-Wall. Their interaction was not on the best of terms, but it was a strange culmination of Daniel. When Grace's mother told Daniel to stop communicating with her family, Daniel responded with an emotionally charged statement. "I understand. I'm ending my life tonight." Though he did not follow through on this threat, this encounter became a significant influence on his subsequent online posts. He began to upload multiple videos apologizing to the Vanderwall family while attempting to address the allegations made against him. However, his response between admitting together. It was interesting to note that despite the distressing situation with Grace, Tina, her mother, displayed empathy towards Daniel. In one of his live streams, Daniel received a comment from Tina stating that the person who contacted him pretending to be her was not her. She pleaded with Daniel to stop mentioning Grace or their family, as she had already told him to do so in a previous DM. Tina warned Daniel that anyone communicating with him was likely a troll trying to manipulate him, and urged him to stop altogether. However, Daniel persisted with his "I'll be" messages from accounts claiming to be Grace, which would revive his campaign. Daniel created a video alleging that Grace was being R-worded by her father. In another instance, he attempted to contact her and guilt-trip her, claiming that he had a heart condition due to heartbreak. Although he occasionally considered that these people might be trolls, he quickly dismissed such thoughts, unable to accept the fact that Grace never wanted anything to do with him. In a series of videos posted in 25th, Daniel Larson's emotional state is seen to be in a state on the Vanderwall team on the short video creation and sharing app Like. In the videos, Daniel appeared to be frantic and panicked as he desperately sought help and claimed that he would become homeless if he did not receive the assistance he needed. He made a series of demands, at times making threats of suicide and crying out of frustration and despair.
I can't take this. I can't take this. I can't take this. I am fighting, but this is my only source of contact to actually get it. Please message me. Please message me now. I'm currently under attack. Please, please, please. I'm currently under attack. You need to let me on the team now. I don't know what to do. Please let me on the team. I can't do anything. I want out. I want out. I will take down 2 videos on YouTube to show them. It's not letting me into my email. It's not letting.
Yeah, like his lack of basic tech know-how, like, you know, to get into his email aside, just like his whole reaction to what. Well, first off, like, it's obvious that the Grace Vanderwall team that he's allegedly, you know, speaking with, it's a group of kids trolling him, but yeah, like with the I'm currently under attack, and, you know, just the bizarre offer to take down 2 of his YouTube videos to show that he cares. Like, this is some of that, like, kind of like disjointed, you know, schizophrenic kind of thinking that, like combined with the rest of his with the rest of his like neurological handicaps and cognitive challenges, it's like I'm not even quite sure where this is coming from, because as I pointed out in reading from Pagan Time Cube and all that, a lot of times some of the strange ideas that people with schizophrenia can have, it does seem to come from somewhere, right? But yeah, with Daniel Larson, just like all of this stuff, it's difficult to say, just because he's got so much like not not on on even average, he's got so much going wrong with his neurological development and his cognitive abilities. It's just it's created a very, very strange operating system inside his head that is obviously, there are some people who, most of them very young, hopefully they'll outgrow it, who think watching this kind of this kind of emotional psychological meltdown on live is kind of funny. And I guess I can understand like why teenagers would think that, because like reacting with humor is, it's not always the best, but it's one of the ways that people can react to something that they don't really understand, but that they can tell is not a direct threat to one's life, right? But I do find it very concerning that that somebody with the kind of challenges he has is like basically at like even at this point in his life where he was still in an assisted living kind of situation, some kind of care home, but that like they'd let him like use internet give him unsupervised internet access. Just it seems a bit concerning to me that yeah, he has some agency, cognitively speaking, he's able to understand how to answer certain kinds of questions, but he's also not he's also not playing with a full deck here. He's so I find a lot of what Daniel Larson's gone through to be very concerning. It's like and I mean, to be honest, it's also given my own personal homelessness arc this time around a little bit of perspective. Like, yeah, have things been bad at times? Have things been scary and downright terrifying for me at times? Of course, but at the same time, like as my father would say, like count your blessings, because it could be a whole heck of a lot worse, right? I mean, I can only begin to imagine like how scary and sometimes terrifying the world can seem to Daniel Larson at least at times. And he's so married to his delusions that the rest of the time he thinks he's a world famous celebrity with a fandom that is about 10 to 15% of the global population, which is also concerning, but for different reasons.
getting in my email because I don't have my phone number and it's not sending occasion to my phone.
Despite the negativity surrounding the Grace fiasco and his like meltdown, Daniel managed to upload his first original song, Roaring Thunder, in July of 2021. He performed the song live in August, albeit to a sparse audience. However, every positive moment was behavior from Daniel. On 2021, Daniel Larson faced yet another setback when he was reportedly banned from a Walmart store, although the exact reason for his
10 to 15% of the world population is like in the area of about 1 billion people, and like that's a bigger fandom than Taylor Swift. But you know, Daniel Larson seems to genuinely think, genuinely believe that for his whole, I think he's now done released a third song at the beginning or very end, either at the very beginning of this year or very end of last year. So he's got 3 songs on Spotify. Roaring Thunder is probably the one that's best known. It's also arguably the best one. The other, I mean, none of them are very good, but Roaring Thunder is arguably the best out of 3 that aren't very good. So so there's that. But yeah, he's like I said, he's so married to the delusions that it's something else. Like when it's not a spectacle, like it as in his life, when it's not a spectacle, that just like kind of makes me wonder like what combination of everything just like contributed to this completely delusional outlook. It's scary in ways that kind of like give me perspective on, like how how compared to a lot of people struggling with homelessness, I've kind of got my shit together, like as much as one can under those circumstances. So yeah, it's like, I don't know. I've got some complex feelings, and some of them are just kind of being broadly interested in a kind of curious way about, because like even though I grew up with like a sister with schizoaffective disorder and another one with autism and bipolar, but with significant schizoaffective leanings on her bipolar, and a few really good friends who've been on the schizoaffective spectrum. I just there's this curiosity that I've got about how people with on the bipolar schizophrenia spectrum just kind of work. It's fascinating, like not in the way like Jane Goodall would be fascinated by the chimpanzees, right? Like, it's not this like, quasi patronizing kind of way. I mean, she did like humanize the chimpanzees she observed a bit too, but at the same time, it's like, they're chimpanzees. It does come off a little bit odd and, and kind of patronizing in a sense there, but but more like a curiosity and fascination, and just like in kind of like the way that it's just kind of interesting just to see how somebody operating with these kinds of differences from how you work, it can like kind of like watching a real kind of like watching an actor who's obviously getting really into their role, right? Like that's totally interesting to watch, even if if it's a movie that you're not all that into otherwise. Like Tim Curry is one of those actors who would get into just about any role and chew on the scenery and just like put everything in him into that role, even if it was an objectively bad script. He's just entertaining to watch because that's the kind of actor he is. It's kind of like that. It's, like there's this I don't necessarily want to say admiration for Daniel Larson as a person, because as we heard, he's got very inappropriate feelings about literal kids, right? But kind of this admiration for the way that the human brain can go through so much and still keep going, that kind of deal. Just like what kind of everything has this guy been put through, and there's still something in his brain that still keeps him going, right? It's kind of like that. So yeah, like not quite the same kind of admiration that, one would have watching Tim Curry in just about any role, because like I said, the man would put everything in him into every role he played, even if it's an objectively bad script, because that's the kind of actor he is. That's the kind of actor he was and the kind of professional he is. And, but it's in that same kind of area that, it just like, like just being kind of intrigued. Intrigued is a better word, right? So it's not like, not quite admiration, but, not quite the, not quite the lightheartedness conveyed with the word fascinated. It's an intrigue. It's that could imply a bit, I don't know. It's in that area. Just there's this something where like I can't look away, and I know part of it is because it helps me put my own hardships into perspective in a way, and kind of like in the whole sense of Schadenfreude, like, yeah, I'm not too ashamed to admit that does kind of make me realize that my life could be measurably worse. But yeah, he sure is something. And he definitely did something I never thought I would see, but kind of made me realize that how competent Chris Chan is, right? like I said, I'm not saying Chris Chan is a good person, and I'm not saying Chris Chan is is good at life, right? Like Chris, she does not win at life, but she's competent.
Ban remains unclear. Speculation suggests that he may have been either recording or talking on his phone inside the store. However, what Daniel claimed to be the reason for his ban was far more concerning.
Walmart just kicked me out for touching kids.
Despite the severity of the situation, Daniel was not one to sit idly by. Instead, he resolved to turn it into an opportunity to protest and start a movement against Walmart. However, his plans for a protest were soon foiled when it was discovered that he was never actually banned from Walmart at all. In fact, it was revealed that someone pretending to be a representative of the retail giant had contacted Daniel and falsely informed him of his supposed ban. At the time, Papa Gut, a popular drama tuber and YouTube commentator who had been covering Daniel's story, was helping him expose one of his trolls. The discovery of the fake ban came to light during this process and led to a massive realization that Daniel had been duped. Despite the truth coming to light, Daniel continues to be trolled and harassed about the ban to this day. On the same day as his concert, Daniel uploaded a 3-minute video of an altercation with one of his caretakers named Jonas. From the footage, it appeared that Jonas was trying to take away Daniel's phone given the troubling content he had been posting on social media. However, Daniel's extreme addiction to social media led him to become hysterical and claim that Jonas was assaulting him. This was a pattern of behavior that Daniel had exhibited multiple times in the past.
Why did you try to hit me? No! What? Get off me! Get off me! If you try to hit me one more time, bitch! I have it all on recording! You tried to hit me! I'm on the floor! I'm doing nothing to you! I'm doing nothing to you! You tried to hit me!
Okay, I'm gonna read this. It's been a while since I've actually paused to read the text on some of these. Daniel uploads a 3-minute video of an altercation with Jonas, and Jonas is one of the people working at the care home Daniel was at the time, which was supposedly over Daniel's excessive phone usage / addiction. In the video, Daniel is seen and heard hysterically screaming and crying while trying to falsely accuse Jonas of hitting him, which he very clearly didn't do. He then threatens Jonas and then attempts to justify his behavior in the name of self-defense. Kusari then adds, don't be fooled by Daniel's whining. He knows he's in the wrong and is simply just playing up the dramatics to force sympathy out of his viewers. And I am inclined to agree with Kusari about this, at least to an extent. Like, when you've got somebody with the kind of neurological and cognitive challenges that Daniel has, it is very easy for them to misinterpret a situation, and also very easy for them to overreact, especially when we saw in the Tennyson Center video, at about 6 minutes into this part of the, this first part of the documentary. So way about about half an hour earlier in the documentary, when we see the clip from the Tennyson Center, Daniel was 14 years old and acting like a child about half that age, which, given his developmental challenges, it's not unheard of. It's not at all unheard of. So, Daniel does get fairly manipulative at times. But this is one of those situations where I think it's a little bit of both. I think there is a bit of, misinterpreting at least part of the situation and overreacting, and perhaps overreacting to at least at a certain point, perhaps not consciously. He could be overreacting to play on people's sympathies, but that's not, like I said, not necessarily a conscious decision of his. So, this is another clip that Daniel streamed or uploaded. I forget which, but it is hard to watch. But I also understand that somebody with Daniel's challenges, to simply portray it as, perhaps an implicitly conscious manipulation, I don't think is completely fair, given that, like I said, about half hour earlier in this doc, we see Daniel at the in the news bit about the Tennyson Center in Denver that was on like local TV there. Well, like I said, he's 14, but his mannerisms and the way he speaks was very much in line with a child about half that age. So he is very developmentally delayed and challenged in a number of ways, and then like with the specific neurodivergence, neurodivergences he's got, it is very common for him to misinterpret at least some of a situation, right? Like, I have no reason to doubt that this began with an argument with Jonas about Daniel's addiction to social media. I have no reason to doubt that. That seems perfectly reasonable. But I'm saying that somewhere in that altercation, perhaps when it was still, a verbal disagreement, that Daniel began misinterpreting some of what Jonas was saying, and then overreacting as someone with, even one or two of the challenges he was born with would tend to do. So when we've got everything that when we've got all of these cognitive challenges that he's got combined, but at the same time, there are instances where it is very easy to tell that he is playing stuff up for the camera, which would be fairly called a manipulative tactic. It's just there are some instances, like the instance with the incident with the family friend Bob Proctor in the the incident with the family friend Bob Proctor in the car where I think that began with some of his trolls pretending to be management from the motel he was staying at, and he ended up hitting Bob in the front seat of the car, and Bob ended up calling the police. And that's also very hard. That was very clearly like coming from a genuine feeling of being terrified of what somebody had told him. But this is this is a little bit more this is a little bit more like little from column A, a little from column B. Like I'm sure there is some genuine overreaction in there, but I do also acknowledge that some of this could also be a manipulative tactic, because he knows he's got people on the internet who feel sorry for him, even after, as has been established in the timeline, earlier in 2021 was, first there was the May 6th incident where he exposed himself on TikTok and in front of like 500 people, and his account was immediately banned. And then there was the Zoom call, the Zoom interview somewhere here about, that was also earlier the same year. I think that was in June of 2021, where he said he would make CSA materials legal with parental permission if it's done the right way. What he thinks that is anybody's guess, but again, that was a very open-ended question that he answered in a manner that showed he knew what the question was talking about. So even by August, after these incidents in particular came up, there's still already people there's still people who still feel sorry for him, and they know that the system isn't always great for people, with these disabilities. So yeah, like I said, I think it's a little bit of both in this with Jonas at the care home. Also, Daniel says a lot of stuff that denotes he's kind of racist. So don't think I don't believe that might be part of what's playing into this altercation here. But yeah, compared to other people who've covered the altercation Daniel had with Jonas at the care home, Kusari does portray it the most fairly out of the other people on YouTube who I've seen comment on this. So yeah, like if I'm even saying that like this here is a little bit unfair, but I can see where it's coming from, and that I don't doubt that there could be some element of manipulation in Daniel's mind during this altercation, especially in his choice to film it. I also understand that he's got some severe challenges that make it very easy for him to misunderstand at least part of what was being said by Jonas about Daniel's phone addiction. And I also understand that with Daniel's challenges, it's very easy for him to overreact to things. And like I said, the way that Daniel loves dropping the N with a hard R at people, even people who aren't of color, like Jonas here is, he'll that's one of his favorite expletives for some reason. But yeah, he's said other really racist things. So I think part of that might also be playing into, Daniel's reaction and overreaction, and also perhaps even if not the most cognizant of why he's not the most cognizant of his decision to be manipulative, I can see race playing into it a bit here. So yeah, like when I say Kusari's like been like the most fair, and even if only very slightly sympathetic toward the case of Daniel Larson on YouTube, as far as those who've like done documentary style videos about Daniel Larson, like and I can still see some room to quibble about some of his commentary. It's like that says a lot, and that really says a lot about just like how internet people just be kind of ableist sometimes. Like you got to understand, like somebody with Daniel's condition, he's not behaving rationally, and not just like how you and I would consider, like, or at least like somebody without Daniel's kind of conditions, like I said, he's very developmentally stunted. When he was 14, he was filmed and broadcast on local TV in the Denver, Colorado area at the age of 14. filmed as behaving and speaking in ways far more typical of a child about half that age. So in 2021, he would have been about, let's see, he was born in 98. So he would have been like going on 23 years old at the time of this incident. So it's definitely within the realm of possibility that, yeah, there may be a manipulative aspect to this incident, but I don't think he was fully cognizant of why he was doing that, right? Like kids, even like teenagers, right, are regularly like, well, especially the younger the teenager, like, like we're talking like, 12, 13, 14 years old, if they're doing something stupid, it's not uncommon for a very young teen to respond with saying that they weren't really sure why they were doing it, right? So I think Daniel's still very much functioning on that level, in no small part due to his just due to his severe developmental delays. But at the same time, he also clearly, there are moments where he's very with it and very capable of knowing why he's doing things, but then there's other times it's interesting in that way, right? Like trying to decipher, like, this and that, right?
I don't even know anymore, and I'm afraid of you. Like, I didn't do anything to you. You just tried to grab me.
Oh.
Like, why did you raise your fist? I was just trying to...
Phone battery's dying, and yeah, I've only got yourself, what? Oh, it's that late. I didn't realize it was almost 2 a.m. My zone. So yeah, I should probably get the cats their dinner, and I wash my hair on Sundays and Wednesdays, so I get to do that tonight too. So yeah, be sure to drink your water, and we'll pick up at the next chapter tomorrow night, hopefully. But yeah, drink your water, take your meds, and if you're watching my show, you probably need some meds. Otherwise, take very good care of yourselves and have exactly the kind of day you deserve. Hopefully a good one, but if you deserve a bad one, then so be it, I guess. Just, I hope it's not too bad, and I hope you recover. But all right. Bats and kisses, nosta ahuil.